Welcome to Keeping It Real, the largest podcast made by real estate agents and for real estate agents. My name is DJ Paris. I'm your guide and host through the show. Today is our monthly series called Closing Time with Chris Linsell from The Close. Now, this is a partnership between Keeping It Real and theclose.com. Let me tell you more about The Close. Theclose.com is the kind of real estate website designed to give agents, teams, and brokerages actionable strategic insight from industry professionals. They cover real estate marketing, lead gen, technology, team building strategies, and many other things from the perspective of working agents and brokers who want to take their business or their brokerage to the next level. Please visit theclose.com. That's THECLOSE.com, just like you would assume, and check out some of their articles. I highly encourage everybody right now, go to theclose.com and at the very least, subscribe to their newsletter. Because if you're like me, sometimes you forget to check websites that you check regularly. Maybe you'll forget. But what's great about The Close is when they publish articles, they send out these digest emails that are incredible. Every article they produce is, I'm just such a big fan of their writing style. So go there, subscribe to their newsletter so you'll get their regular communication. With us as always is Chris Linsell. He's the staff writer. He is a staff writer, senior staff writer and real estate coach. He's actually head of content creation for the whole site. I always forget that he is the big kahuna over there. Chris is he's the Close's resident expert on real estate topics, ranging from marketing, lead gen, transactional best practices, and everything in between. But what else is Chris all about? Well, he's also a licensed real estate agent in Michigan. He's been part of hundreds of sales transactions, from modest rural starter homes to massive waterside compounds. And when he's not writing or coaching, you can find him fly fishing, or I don't know, maybe not this time of year, but he is into fishing, and also he performs on the stage of his community theater's local production. So Chris, glad to have you back on Keeping It Real, and excited to speak with you.
DJ, thanks for having me. That might be the longest intro I have.
I stumbled over
the places I speak, so I'm not complaining about it. I like hearing about myself, but yeah, I mean, you're definitely putting in the word count there. I like it.
Yeah, well, you deserve it, because not only are you're gracious enough to come on our show, but you speak all over the country. You've spoke at the NAR annual conference. You've spoke at local, more regional, and even state level, conferences. You are a sought after speaker. And so we're just excited to have you. So I'm not saying enough nice things about how lucky we are to have you. So.
Well, that's nice of you to say. Yeah, happy to connect with folks wherever I get a chance to share a little bit of conversation, maybe hop on a stage and impart some knowledge and maybe some ideas for how we can build better businesses. And actually, I kind of came with a bee in my bonnet today. I hope it's okay that I hijack things a little bit, but
Let's do it.
I had some conversations over the weekend with some real estate professionals in my local market. I'm in Michigan, northern Michigan, and up here in the northern reaches of the Lower Peninsula, it is not uncommon for real estate as a business to really be a tale of two cities. You have the agents who are like crushing it, you see their signs in every other yard. They're doing 40, 50, 60 transactions a year. Really staying busy. And then you also have the agents who are maybe clearing 10 transactions a year that are maybe working for smaller, less aggressive brokerages. And man, I had some conversations around that latter group of agents that were interesting this weekend. I'd love to chat with you a little bit about it. Specifically, some of the things I was talking about and hearing from agents who, aren't they don't have their name up in lights. They do real estate full time, like this is their job, but they're not clearing more than 10 or 15 transactions a year. This is going to be an interesting year for those folks, especially if they are not adequately preparing themselves.
Yeah, I agree. So the top producers I know and the ones I feature on the show, when I ask them, hey, sort of behind the scenes, like, what do you think about 2023? They're like, well, It's definitely going to be a down. Most of the agents I've spoken to say, I believe it's going to be a, I'll definitely not be hitting the number of transactions I did in 2021. 2022 was also, first 3 quarters were fine. But last quarter was pretty tough for most people. But these top producers don't seem to be too worried. Their business may take a small hit, but they have so much, their sphere is so big and their previous client list is so vast that they tend to do just fine. It's you're right. And our brokerage in particular, the vast majority of our agents are in that lower producing category. That's just kind of our model. And we love those agents, but we also, those are very vulnerable agents when
Yeah.
the market shifts. And so I love to talk about this because it'll help our agents as well.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. Like, if you make $1 million GCI, you're crushing it in just about any market. And if you take a 30% hit on your business, I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. But you're going to have to subsist on $700,000 GCI this year, which I'm sure you're going to be able to figure your way through. If you make $50,000 a year and you take a 30% bath, all of a sudden you're making $35,000 GCI. It is difficult to pay the rent and the mortgage and the daycare bills on 35K. So,
Yeah.
but I want to talk more than just GCI here. I wanted to bring up the first kind of interesting question that I had was, an agent I was chatting with said, should I be worried about my brokerage this year? Like, they work at a mom and pop brokerage. They're one of 6 agents. Everybody's kind of in the same boat here. They don't have like a big marquee. They're not buying billboards. They're running a pretty small business. Do they need to be worried about their brokerage right now? And I said, in no uncertain terms, you don't need to be worried, but you do need to be actively asking the right questions.
Yeah.
It is not out of line to
I will
go
tell
to your
you,
managing broker and say, "Hey, listen, just want to make sure we're set up for the year, for the future here. Just want to check in, see how things are going." You're going to find some interesting conversations are going to come from that for sure.
we found 1,000 brokerages here locally that when we looked at their production, we looked at their numbers, the number of agents, number of transactions, and we said, "Oh wow, we don't see we see we see challenges for these 1,000 firms." And so I sent out 1,000 emails to these companies and saying, "Hey, if you're nervous about this year, if you're worried about, whether you, I didn't say stay in business, but that was the assumption. If you're nervous about this year, we may want to merge with you, or we can absorb some of your costs and we can figure out some sort of structure that works." So we sent out 1,000 individual emails, and what was really interesting were the results. About 30 brokerages wrote back and said, "You know what? We are pretty nervous and we would
Mm.
like to talk and see if there's a way we can join forces." Awesome for us, great opportunity to pick up a bunch of agents and,
Mhm.
merge and whatever. But what was really interesting was I got about maybe not 100, maybe I got another 50 responses from brokers that I can see their numbers. And I'm like, I don't know how they're paying the bills now, but
Mhm.
whatever, they're somehow surviving. And they were like, "This is going to be a great year. Yeah, I don't need you." Like, almost even a little offended. And we did it. I was very polite about it, but
Mhm.
not offended, but just sort of like, yeah, no, I'm good. So we're like,
Mhm.
okay, those are the 50 that I've got my eye on, because I
Mm.
I don't see a path forward for them that's easy, unless they pick up a bunch of more realtors. So that would be a concern. Now, the agents who work at these firms, I am sure that is not on their mind. They don't think about the health of the business. They're focused on their own production, their own business. But if it was me, I would be wanting to have a quick conversation with whoever owns the business and say,
Mhm.
"Hey, just wanted to check in and see how are things going. What do you think was going to happen this year? How's the business doing? Is there anything I can do to help?" Sort of being of service of that sense, and also hopefully getting some information.
Yeah, I completely. I mean, that's absolutely the right approach, and I would go as far as telling agents, if you are working in a brokerage like this, like that is, that you don't feel has a 100% chance of survive and thrive in 2023. I would go as far as saying, if you are in that place, you need to do some internal reflection on your
Yeah,
own business and the health of your
definitely.
own business as it applies to surviving and thriving in 2023. It's interesting. I don't know exactly what the classes look like in Illinois, but in Michigan, when you're getting a real estate license, there are no personal accounting. There's no, I mean, business planning beside maybe half a chapter in the pre-license class. There are no requirements for you to have the knowledge and the strategy necessary to plan and evolve a successful business when pivots come. And the reality is, DJ, most agents who are currently working in the United States right now have never worked a real estate season with the sort of downturn potential that we are seeing in 2023. Never ever. If you look at
Right.
the tenure of license, the majority of agents have only been licensed during boom times
Right.
nationwide. This truly is uncharted water for the majority of licensed real estate professionals. If that's you, there's no shame in saying, hey, this might be something I haven't experienced before. I need to do a little self reflection to make sure I'm ready for this, in addition to my organization.
Yeah, and I think if the phone has stopped ringing
Mm.
for an individual agent, I think that's normal, and that's what I'm even hearing from top producers. Top producers I speak to either at our firm or on this podcast have said they have to do a lot more outbound effort these days. They have to reach out directly to the clients, or prospects, your sphere, whatever you may call the people in your database, and reach out and check in with them. There's a lot more outbound effort. Let's face it, in 2021, and even some of 2022, for a lot of us, the phone was just ringing and we were
Yeah.
busy. It doesn't mean it was easy, but we didn't necessarily have to make as many outbound
Hmm.
touches. And now is the time when I talk to top producers, they go, "Oh, I'm just doing a lot more outbound touches." That seems to be the consistent message I'm
Yeah.
hearing from. So I think that's a great lesson
Yeah.
for the smaller producers.
And I think, just generally speaking, for smaller producers and for those who have not worked through a downturn year, um, there's a couple of other specific strategies in addition to, and I think that's the important one to identify, is lead generation. The generation of the top of your funnel during boom times is mostly inbound. People are calling you. You are buying ads on Zillow or through Bold Leads or Top Producer. You are creating opportunities for people to get in contact with you because they are already looking for those services. In boom times, you are simply activating those needs and giving them a way to reach out and connect with you. During downturn times, the script gets flipped. People are the people are less looking for those services, and instead of waiting for the phone to ring, you have to make it ring for somebody else. But there is something important here that a lot of people miss that I want to make sure I highlight. The fact is, the need for housing doesn't change. In fact, it's pretty well established that the amount of people who need, and I say need instead of want, who need housing doesn't really change much year to year. Maybe as the population grows, we'll see we see the number of transactions move, but there is not this extraordinary jump or dip in the need for housing. This number stays pretty steady. It's how people approach the kind of activation of that need. Because in boom times, they're happy to reach out. They're making all these moves themselves. They're getting in contact. They're starting conversations. During slow times or cautious like market retractions, it's up to the real estate professional to identify where those needs exist and activate the buyers and sellers who are going to meet those needs. So we are just turning the corner as far as the how the relationships start. And if you take that and expand that idea out across your entire real estate strategy, think about how that would affect your social media, for instance. Your social media is no longer about creating opportunities for someone to reach out to you. It is now about creating media that gives you a chance to start a conversation and do the outreach yourself. So, like a 10-second strategy you can use here: create content that engenders interaction. We want comments and shares. But this time, you want those comments so that you can get that comment and then have maybe a mini personal interaction in the comments, or you can start a conversation in a direct message, or you can take it offline, get on the phone, get in person. But that initial social media interaction is not about just exposure for you so that somebody can reach out to you. It is about exposure for them so that you can reach out to them. The need doesn't change, but our approach gets flipped.
I have a social media suggestion. I want to hear your
Yeah.
a very specific. So I was thinking while you were talking. Now this isn't exactly your suggestion, but I think it still will get you a similar result. So one of the ideas that came to mind that I would consider, and I want to hear, and if it's a bad idea, I want you to tell me. What I might do is, we know that Zillow is the number one, customer facing, website that people visit to, of course, see home values, search for properties, etc. And people who aren't looking for making a move might still be on Zillow to see what their own home is worth, just looking at this estimate. And I'm sure there's a collective groan from our audience, because realtors have a particular either affinity or non-affinity to more non-affinity, I think, to the Zillow's estimate. But we know it's a metric that your consumers do look at. In fact, it's probably the only metric they look at when they're trying to figure out what their home is worth before calling a realtor and saying, what's my home worth? They're going to go on Zillow, or they're going to go to another, comparable website and see some sort of estimate. If it was me on social media, what I might do is do either a live video or a regular video, it could be a reel, it could be whatever, where I literally show a random Zestimate. Just pick one. I would not pick one that's one of your customers. Just pick a random one. Don't even show the address, and say, here's what Zillow is showing. I went and did a more in-depth sort of review, and I actually came back with this number. And this number, I'm pretty confident is more accurate. Demonstrating that kind of value, I think, in a video. And then you can say, by the way, if anyone else out there is wondering what their home is worth, I am happy to run the same thing, no charge. It's just what I do. I know that homeowners want to know what their home is worth, or at least that's a metric that they're probably always interested in. So just a quick thought there.
I think it's great. Absolutely. I love, those who know me know that compare and contrast content is some of my favorite. No matter what you're comparing and contrasting, people like holding things side by side and picking out the differences, whether those differences are good, bad, or the other. That's very engaging social media content. The other thing that I think is important, just generally speaking, is to remember, as you are thinking about your overall strategy for 2023, especially those who are operating a smaller business, you do have a little bit smaller margin for error than you did when you are in the big times, when the phone won't stop ringing for you. And it's important to remember that your brokerage is likely operating with a smaller margin of error as well. So what does that mean? Well, it means that the leaders in your brokerage, the ones who are maybe authorizing spend, or the ones that you are negotiating your split and cap agreements with, these folks are in protective kind of conservation mode right now. So plan accordingly. Just like everything in real estate, negotiate based on what is important for the other party. If you are up for a renegotiation on your cap and split, consider taking, I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud, consider taking a hit in 2023, even if it's minuscule, 2%, in an effort to maybe create a balloon for yourself in 3 years where you get a 10% bump, kind of thing. Like, if you can afford a 2% drop right now in your split, just an idea to remind us that our brokers are probably negotiating from a place of protectionism. So be thoughtful about that. Likewise, when it comes to your own business, be conservative and thoughtful and strategic about your own decision making. right now, 2023 is likely a time where you are going to lean on the things that have worked and do a little bit less blind leaning on things that you don't have an idea of whether or not they work in your market. It's not saying that you don't want to innovate and take some calculated risk, but this is definitely a time to lean on the things that work. And if you're new to this business, then it's time to lean on the things that have worked for others rather than trying to reinvent the wheel right now.
Yeah, I agree. And just one last tip. If you predict that your business may be down a certain percentage, and you can the easiest way I think to figure that out is talk to your managing broker. Have them look at what they think forecasts for your local market in the
Mm-hmm.
next year. Oh, by the way, your association is can help with this too. And in fact, you're paying them a lot of money along with
Mm-hmm.
whoever the MLS provider is. I would call both and say,
Mm-hmm.
hey, what do you guys forecast for? And I shouldn't say guys, but whoever is doing this, what does your team predict, or what is your best guess for what you see via data trends? And
Mm-hmm.
let's just say it's the think maybe the whole market's going to be down 15% for your local area.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would assume that that's going to hit me at that same level. And here's the action step. Make sure that you are reducing your expenses by at least 15%.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, and you just say, well, I'm just going to grind it out and try to get as much business as I can, well, we hope that that happens for you, and we hope that that extra effort will result in more business. But you need to take care of your business, and you need to be fiscally responsible. So please,
Mm-hmm.
please, please don't do what some of these brokerages. I think some of these brokerages are struggling to even do this as well, which is why I'm reaching out to every small brokerage in my area, because I suspect a lot of them aren't adjusting expenses, much less the agents doing their own adjustment of their own expenses. So please talk to your managing broker, make sure that they have a grip on what's happening. If they're like, this is going to be an awesome year, I would say, well, why do you think that? What data do you have that's causing you
Mm-hmm.
to think that? And if they don't have it, I'd be a little concerned. And then look within your own business and say, hey, where am I spending money? Maybe I could reduce some of those expenses and just try to get through this year without being non-profitable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, one little caveat I will say is that often opportunity is placed in the hands of those who are willing to get off their heels and onto their toes the fastest. So
Definitely.
this isn't to say if you see an opportunity for success that you don't leverage that opportunity, but it is to say apply a strict and stringent criteria for what opportunity looks like. Basically, it's not a license to just sit back and let opportunities fly by you. That is, certainly an approach, but not the most profitable one. But you have to be really thoughtful about what those opportunities look like.
Yeah, I honestly believe if you do a lot more outbound calling, texting, emailing, staying in touch, letting your sphere know that you care about them, giving them reasons to pick up the phone. Hey, I wanted to give you an update on what I think your home is worth. Give me a call back. I have a few quick questions. I'm going to send it over to you just so you know what's going on in the market. Those
Mm-hmm.
kind of things are gold. And you can do
Big
that
time.
all day long
Big
and
time.
demonstrate value. And by the way, people who are renting, right now, rental prices, again, depends on your local market, have come down significantly with concessions going up, meaning more amenities, less pay. So if you have somebody who's sitting on the sidelines because they're worried about the 6.5% lending
Mm-hmm.
rates to buy a property, maybe it's better for them to rent right now. And you can still help them do that. But having that conversation going, hey, you're a renter right now. Let's take a look at some of the other buildings in your area. When's your lease up? Okay, let's talk about that. Whether or not you earn a commission from doing that is another issue, but you are demonstrating value and setting yourself up for future success.
It's the truth. Couldn't agree more.
Well, let's cap it at that. What a great place to end off.
Mm-hmm.
Want to remind everyone to visit theclose.com, and also, so 95% or higher of their content is totally free. You can go there. It's amazing content. It actually, like, I've been noticing this. If you go to, I'll just quick aside for a moment. I've been doing some videos about Chat GPT just because it's fun, which is this open AI free piece of software that Microsoft owns that you can go in and ask all sorts of fun questions and you can get some interesting results. And anyway, I won't go into Chat GPT now, but what's interesting is I'll ask Chat GPT, write me a persuasive email to recruit a realtor, because that's what I do. And they write, and it's pretty interesting. But But what I was going to say is the information that comes back is pretty generic. So I love ChatGPT, but what I really love is great journalism,
Mm.
even more than just getting, some bot to regurgitate information it finds online. The close does not do that. The close has got real journalism, really
Mhm.
deep dive articles. It's not, hey, for your next open house, let's bake some cookies. Or it's really really specific stuff about what can actually drive people to that next open house or help you with your marketing efforts. They have just incredible content, guys. I honestly believe that. I want everybody to read it. So go to theclose.com. They also have a subscription model as well. So if you want to take that to the next level, you can check out the Close Pro. Um, and Chris, also, are you speaking anywhere anytime soon? Any plugs?
Yeah. Well, I'm actually going to be in New York City for the Inman Connect conference. I'm not speaking on any of the stages, but I've got a couple of little things you can come noodle around. Follow me on Twitter. You can find me there. And for anyone in Canada that's listening, the next thing I'm booked at is the Realtor Quest conference in Toronto this spring. So if you are selling real estate in Canada and are in the Toronto area, you should definitely come. I've got a lot of really great stuff planned for that event.
Awesome. Well, that'll be a wrap for this time. Everyone go visit theclose.com. Consider subscribing to the Close Pro as well. Thank you for listening, making it to the end of this episode. Just do us one favor, tell a friend. Think of one other realtor that's struggling. Almost all realtors are a little bit right now. So this would be a great gift to give to somebody to say, hey, what could I be doing right now to help ensure that I'm building a strong business for this year? Send them a link to our website, keepingitrealpod.com, or just have them subscribe to our podcast and they'll get episode updates from whatever app they're using. So anyway, Chris, great to see you. We will see you next month. And thank you, of course, to our audience and of course to Chris for providing such amazing conversation. Chris, it was great seeing you.
See you guys next time.